PayPal stock is back below $60, which for me means I am slightly down on my shares. This is a stock that's been absolutely dead money since I bought it. And we can see here on a year-to-date span, the stock is actually down 3.4%. Pretty much every span we look at, the stock is down. Over a 1-year span, down 10%. Over a 5-year span, oh my goodness, down 48%. The stock has been in a terrible spot for a very long time now. So is this stock broken, or is it just a matter of time before it goes on an absolute crazy tear upward? And if it's going to have that crazy tear upward, what can be our price expectation for that? I want to talk a little bit about that in this video, and we're going to use the valuation metrics in relation to the sector median, and we're going to use the growth rates in relation to the sector median. So those are the two main things we're going to look at in this video. I'm excited to get into it, but first, for anyone that's new here, I'm Austin. I'm a co-owner of CloudBusinessSuite.com. I'm also a stock market investor. And most importantly for this video, I am a PayPal shareholder. If you're not subscribed to the channel, become one of those 4,500 or so people, and also drop a like on the video. Helps the channel out in a massive way. I appreciate you for doing those two things. Let's jump into the video. So just a few seconds ago, I said that I'm the co-owner of CloudMusicSuite.com. My own company does not use PayPal for our payment handling. We actually use Stripe. We don't use PayPal, and we don't use Braintree, their white label unbranded product that they use for back-end payment handling. We don't use that. We chose Stripe. Well, the reason I say that is even someone who's a PayPal shareholder actually chose to go with Stripe. And this starts to underscore one of the massive issues and concerns that people have with PayPal stock, and that is competitive threats. Apple Pay is seen as a competitive threat. Shopify Pay, Amazon Pay, Meta Pay, Google Pay, of course, Visa and MasterCard, Western Union, Cash App, etc. These are all seen as competitive threats to PayPal. And not to mention, like I just talked about, Stripe, one of the biggest private companies in the world, absolutely a competitor to the Braintree product, which is the unbranded back-end payment handling side of PayPal. These competitive threats are very real, and they are something to take into account whenever we're thinking about buying PayPal stock and where the growth rates are going to go in the future. I believe that the payment space, the online payment space, is going to grow enough that it's not really that big of an issue. You know, we don't just have Walmart selling groceries. We have Walmart. We have Kroger, depending on where you're at in the US. We have Harris Teeter, which is also owned by Kroger. We have Trader Joe's. We have Fresh Market. We have Whole Foods. The list goes on, but just like that grocery store example, I don't see the payment space being a massive consolidation space, and I don't see it going through a consolidation phase anytime soon. There's enough online payment volume to go around for all these companies to get their piece of the pie. Obviously, PayPal is way more established, which means they're probably going to grow at a little bit slower of a clip than some of the newcomers to the online payment space. But that doesn't mean we as shareholders can't get a really great value out of a stock that is potentially undervalued in relation to its peers, which we'll check out here in a little bit. And then the other reason recently that PayPal stock has been in kind of a dead money phase is that there's a big time management change happening. So last year, Alex Chriss took over as CEO, and he has not so slowly changed almost the entire executive team to be his guys. The other people have been pushed out or they chose to leave, and he's replaced pretty much every single person on the entire PayPal executive team to really build the team that he has wanted to build, that in his mind is going to unlock the most amount of growth vectors for PayPal over the next 5 to 10 years. And that might sound good, but they've got to prove themselves before the market starts to believe them. You can't just say we're going to bring a lot of growth to PayPal and then not come through with the numbers. The market is not going to get too excited about that with an established company like PayPal. They've got to come in and quarter out and show that they're bringing in the numbers and they're bringing the innovations to bring future numbers. The main thing that the market hates is uncertainty, and there's a lot of uncertainty around PayPal's growth trajectory moving forward. We think it's going to be pretty good because Alex Chriss and the new team are going to make it really, really good, but we don't know for sure. So we got to see the numbers come through. So now let's talk about valuation a little bit, and these numbers are accurate as of June 25th, 2024. So the main valuation metrics I want to look at are PE, which is price to earnings ratio, forward PE, which takes analyst expectations for the next 12 months of earnings into account. account. And then I want to look at price to sales ratio. And we're going to compare this to the sector they play in, the payment space. PayPal's sitting at a trailing PE of 14.94 in relation to sector median of 11.38, which is actually 31% higher than the sector median. Forward PE right now is a 16.02 versus a sector median forward PE of 10.77, which is 48% higher. And then PayPal's trailing price to sales is 2.12 in comparison to the 2.57 for the sector, which is 17% lower than the sector. So the PE and the forward PE seem to be higher by a good margin, but the price to sales is a little bit lower. So we're kind of mixed on the valuation metrics in relation to the peers. We've got to check out the growth rates to see if those PE numbers are justified. We'll check it out here in just a sec. So first on the growth metrics, we're going to look at revenue growth. Revenue growth for the past year, past 12 months, was 8.39% in relation to sector median of 4.49%. So that's 86% higher than the sector they play in. Forward revenue growth is expected to be 7.97 versus a 5.12 sector median. That's 55% higher than the sector. So with their price to sales already being 17% lower than the sector they play in, but the revenue growth being way higher on a trailing basis and on a forward basis, that looks attractive right there when we're sitting at the $60 range with PayPal. But the EPS growth numbers are where it gets really interesting with PayPal. Trailing GAAP EPS growth of 83.73%. That's compared to a sector median of negative 2.64%. So needless to say, they are absolutely outperforming the sector on the EPS growth in an insane way, up 83%, right? And then the forward GAAP EPS growth is expected to be 27.87%, and that's compared to the sector median of 3.21%. That's over 8 times the forward EPS growth when we're comparing it to the sector median. So although their PE and their forward PE is higher than the sector median, the EPS growth and the forward EPS growth is way higher. I could see PayPal realistically and comfortably getting to a PE of about 20. With a forward PE of about 22. So that would be somewhere around 30 to 40% upside just based on getting them to be in line with where I think they should be in their PE numbers. That doesn't take into account any future growth that they're going to have, any guidance raises they're going to have, any major growth levers that the new management team is able to pull. That's just based on right now, assuming everything kind of stays constant. So if we get to that PE of roughly 20 and that forward PE of roughly 22, that would mean a share price of somewhere around $78 to $80, right around the $80 per share mark. That would be about a 30%-ish gain. I think that's a realistic expectation for us to have with PayPal over the next 6 to 12 months. I've heard all kinds of people saying this stock's going to be well over $150. This stock's going to be well over $200 within a very short period of time. The odds of that happening are extremely low. If this stock had EPS growth rates in the hundreds of percent and forward EPS growth in the hundreds of percent, which absolutely happens out there with many stocks in the market, and if they had revenue growth maybe in the 20% range, I could see those things happening. But that's not the situation PayPal's in. They're in the high single digits revenue growth. They do have respectable earnings per share growth, but it's not in the hundreds of percent. And that's what we would need in order to see this company go from $60 all the way to $120 or $180. For us to get a triple up on our shares, there's an extremely low percentage chance of that happening given the valuation metrics and given the growth metrics that we have. My most bullish case would be that PayPal gets to the price to earnings ratio average of the S&P 500. Right now, S&P 500 average PE is 28.4. So we'll just call it 28 because it might drop a little bit by the time I post this video. We'll call it a 28 PE. If we can get PayPal to that 28 PE, the stock price would be sitting right around $110. And in order for that to happen, the management team has to absolutely crush numbers on every single metric, every single quarter for the next multiple quarters, and probably announce multiple innovations that are going to bring PayPal's growth rates for the next 1 to 5 years higher than they're currently expected. So not only will they have to beat like crazy, but they also need to announce some very impressive innovations in order for the sentiment to shift around PayPal stock. It's important to realize that this is a value stock. Whenever we're looking at a value stock, it takes time for the sentiment to change around a value stock. When we're looking at a hyper growth company, somebody like an NVDA, somebody like a PLTR, someone like Hims and Hers Health, those type of stocks can make extremely sharp moves in a very short period of time. With a value stock, it's a sentiment issue typically. It's normally not a fundamentals issue. When we look at the fundamentals like we just did a little bit ago, they're justified based on the growth rates that we've got right now. So what they need to do is keep on working to shift sentiment, and that takes beats every single quarter. That takes CEO interviews, CEO, CTO, and CFO presentations at these technology conferences, and some impressive innovations around the company. That's not an easy thing to do. Alex Chris has got a lot of work to do to shift the sentiment around PayPal stock. It is seen by many as a dying company. When you're seen as a dying company, no one wants to put their money with you. So if they're going to keep their sentiment as, oh, it's just that dying company that's trying to hold on to their past growth or their past hype, then they're going to stay here around the $60 range. If they're able to improve sentiment a good amount, I can see us getting into the $80 range. If they're able to improve sentiment very well and crush numbers like crazy, I could see us getting all the way into the $100 to $110 range over the next 6 to 12 months. That would be a big move for PayPal stock, but like I said, my base case is somewhere around the $80 mark over that time frame. As long as the fundamentals stay intact and they keep executing every single quarter, I'm going to be a happy shareholder. Value stocks can take a lot more time for the gain to come, but I do believe we'll get that gain with PayPal, and we're not going to be dead money forever. And remember, I'm way more interested in what happens with PayPal over the next 1 to 5 years than I am over the next 1 to 5 months. If it takes a while for PayPal to take off for me, I'm still going to be okay with that, as long as, like I said, the fundamentals are staying in a great spot and the management team is executing every single quarter. If you have different price projections than me, let me know in the comments below. I want to hear what your price prediction is, over what span of time you believe that's going to happen, and what are going to be the main things that allow PayPal to get to the ranges you think they're going to get to. Definitely one of my favorite parts of posting here on YouTube is checking out your comments down there and having some conversation with you guys. Let me know if you're still buying PayPal stock, selling PayPal stock, or just holding. I am still in the accumulation phase. I have slowed down my purchases in a major way over the last 1 to 2 months. Even though I'm slightly down on my shares, I'm not going to build this position to like a 10% weight in my portfolio or anything like that. I'm close to my share goal with PayPal, so I've slowed down my buys in a major way, but I am still buying PayPal. Looking forward to seeing your comments below. Thank you so much for being here. Have an amazing day.